What is up, IF Warriors? Today we're going to talk about how to choose your eating window. Now, the complexity of choosing an eating window for so many people is going to be very difficult to pull off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the 3 most popular intermittent fasting regimens, and then I'm going to base it off of that regimen and try to base it off of most likely scenarios that one may deal with during their normal everyday lives. Now, this is a question that I get a lot. A lot of people message me saying, well, I work at this time, what should I do? Other people tell me, well, I work at this time, what should I do? This video will specifically focus solely on what your eating window should be if you're intermittent fasting. Now, the 3 regimens that I selected are probably the most popular one, which is the lean gains, which you have an 8-hour eating window with a 16-hour fasting window. The warrior diet, which is the one that I do, and you have a 20-hour fasting window with a 4-hour eating window, and 1 meal a day, which is technically just a 1-hour eating window with a 23-hour fasting window. Now let's tackle the lean gains. What type of job do you have? With lean gains, you have a much broader range to work with. You can decide when you're gonna eat and when you're gonna stop eating, and you have a big chunk to do it. Understand that these eating windows are guides. They're windows that tell you, okay, now I'm in my eating zone, I can eat at any time. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to make sure that you eat within that entire 8-hour span. So for example, if your eating window starts at 12, it doesn't mean that your last meal has to be at 8. It also doesn't mean that your first meal has to be at 12. Use the windows as a guide, not as a device that makes it strict to the time frame. So if you have a job that's 9 to 5, what will be your lean gains time? I would say the best possible time will be to start it at 12. Because if you start it at 12 in the afternoon, then you get the lunch break time where you can decide to do it at 12 if you want or not, and you can keep on going. And then after you leave work, when you get home and there's food in the house, you could also eat that as well. You can sit down with your family. No one is the wiser, and you've gone and eaten until 8 o'clock. Then you could decide that you don't want to do anything else after 8 o'clock. You don't want to eat dinner. You're done for the day. You've eaten at lunch. You've eaten when you got back home, maybe 6 or 7, and you don't want to eat anymore. When you're off, it should be much easier to adhere to that window. It makes it a little bit harder to not pay attention to food because you're not in the process of working, but still it's easier to eat at your own control because you're not at a job which forces you to go on break at specific times. What if you work at a job where you work smack dab in the afternoon into the night? Then I would recommend for you to shift it slightly down, maybe about 2 o'clock. Usually people work from 3 to 11. If you work from 3 to 11 because you're smack dab in the afternoon until the night, then if you get a 2 o'clock one, you can eat right before you go into work. Then from 3 to whatever time, maybe 5 or 6, you can eat again, or you could wait even up until 7 to eat, and then you're good. Even though you have more time in your eating window, you don't have to worry about it because you've already eaten as much food as you need and you're set. Remember, use these windows as guides. You don't want to complete the entire window if you don't want to. What if you work the overnight shift? I recommend, if you work the overnight shift, for your windows to start before you even get into the overnight shift. So if you go to sleep and you wake up around 4 or 3, whatever time it is, start your window then. You can then eat the moment you wake up if you like, eat whatever you need, eat again throughout the day, and then when your time to work starts, so if you start eating at 3, then 11 is when your eating window stops. While you're at work, you can go ahead and drink water. That's all you need to do. You don't have to eat during the overnight if you don't want to. This way, whenever you shift to being off and you have a normal life where you're not up during the overnight, you can still eat normally. Because if you eat during the overnight, you are trapping yourself with that eating window even on your days off. Remember, you want it to be smooth all 7 days. So if this is gonna be smooth all 7 days, you have to think about the days that you're not working or the days that you're not partaking in any specific activity. I personally would prefer to put working out at the gym in every one of these scenarios before you start eating. But if you can't do that because of work constraints and time constraints, don't worry about it. Go ahead and do the gym after you eat. It's not gonna kill you. The most important thing is being able to effectively do intermittent fasting every single day. Well, what if sometimes you work in the morning, but sometimes you work in the afternoon? In that case, I would say to leave it at 12, because even though it's at 12, going into the afternoon, you can still eat before you go to work. And once you go to work, you can have one more lunch if you work in the afternoon before your window ends. Well, what if you work in the overnight and then sometimes in the afternoon? Keep the 3 to 11 schedule for your eating window the same. That way, when you work in the afternoon, you have a wide range of when you can eat. You can do whatever you want during that time, and then you still don't sacrifice your days off and having to adapt to eating during that time. Now let's use the warrior diet, for example. The warrior diet is 4 hours. So the 4 hours makes it slightly trickier than 8 hours because you don't have that big of a window to create your scenario where you're gonna eat something. So if you work in the morning from 9 to 5, then the best possible scenario for you would be probably to get it within the time frame where you're at work and also a little bit when you're leaving work. I think that I hit the perfect number by putting my fasting time from 2:30 to 6:30, because that is so in the middle that it allows for so many dynamic situations where you can still keep that 2:30 to 6:30 time frame. For example, if you work from 7 to 3, your lunch time could be at 2:30, right before 3 o'clock. If you work 9 to 5, your lunch time could be at 2:30. If you work in the afternoon, maybe 3 to 11, your lunch time could be at 6 o'clock. You get where I'm going here? It's so in the middle. It's very, very dynamic with the timings that you may get during your work schedule. The most important thing is to think first about your work schedule, then think second about everything else, because your work schedule will determine exactly how comfortable you will be with doing this method for the rest of your life, which, like I've said before, is the ultimate goal. Get your work schedule timing right, and then everything else will be that much easier. When you're off, you have so much possibilities of what times you're going to use to fast. Make sure that everything is guided from the work schedule that you have. Let's say you get the worst scenario ever, where sometimes you work in the morning and sometimes you work at night. You just sacrifice the nighttime schedule, drink water during the nighttime schedule, and make sure that you focus your eating window for the daytime, because no matter what, when you're off, you gotta be awake during the daytime. So during the daytime is when you want your eating window to work. If you're gonna do the warrior diet, guys, I highly, highly recommend the time of 2:30 to 6:30, as I don't think I've ever seen a better time frame in terms of being right smack in the middle as 2:30 to 6:30. Now, OMAD is unique because OMAD is just one meal a day. It comes with some versatility. And that versatility is you can choose whenever that one meal a day will be. It is best to always keep it at the same time frame, because that way every single day you're fasting for exactly the same amount of hours. But if you will need to push and pull it and push and pull it, depending on the certain dynamics with your job, if you have to work in the morning sometimes, and then sometimes in the afternoon, and then sometimes during the overnight, just make sure that every single time, if you want to eat lunch at work, you just eat lunch at work, and you don't eat when you go home, and you don't eat when you wake up, and you only eat when you finally get to work for your lunchtime. If you want to do it in the morning, go ahead and do it in the morning if you're working in the morning. If you want to do it in the afternoon, go ahead and do it in the afternoon if you're working in the afternoon. And if you want to do it during the overnight, go ahead and do it during the overnight if you're working during the overnight. It is up to you. Either way, you will still be fasting, but see how this may mess you up in terms of the amount of times that you're fasting if you eat during the overnight, but then the next day you have like a morning schedule. Are you going to eat in the morning? That's not going to give you that much of a fasting schedule. That's why I always say to use 1 hour, pick 1 hour, and then stick to that 1 hour. If you were to choose just 1 hour when it comes to OMAD, it will possibly be maybe 12 o'clock. You could also strategically choose a time frame. So you could do like a warrior diet kind of thing where you say, I have this time frame of 4 hours. So maybe, you know, 12 to 4, I have 12 to 4, and hopefully I can eat within 12 to 4, and I always stay there. So it'll be like somewhat of a warrior diet, OMAD kind of thing where it's 1 meal a day, but it's within 4 hours, so you can do whatever you want. I do that a lot. Sometimes I do the warrior diet, but I only eat 1 meal a day while doing the warrior diet. I know it sounds a little confusing, but what it is I still remain within my time frame, and I decide to eat just one time. So I pick maybe 4 o'clock, and then I eat then, and that's it. And keep in mind that no specific times will give you an edge in terms of just the timing itself. The only thing that you want to do is have the fasting time be whatever it is that you're shooting for, because as long as you're fasting for 16 hours, you will be getting the benefits of fasting for 16 hours. As long as you're fasting for 20 hours, you will get the benefits of fasting for 20 hours. If you're fasting for 36 hours, you will get the benefits of fasting for 36 hours. The longer you go, the better, up until 48 hours, where it starts to be diminishing returns, and it's not that beneficial for you to continue forward. But it doesn't matter when you choose to eat. The only thing that matters is how comfortable is it going to be for you, for your life, specifically for your job, because that will domino effect for everything else and make it much, much easier for you. Thank you for watching this video, guys. If you have any other questions to any other videos that I've had in the past, I'll have one here. My subscribe button will be down there. The jumper, when it's ready, will be right here, and I will see you on Wednesday. Peace.